broach.
You're fine. You can have it. Unless you want the
Walker's
yellow.
actually, I've got a Walker
Unless you
still
want
in.
the yellow.
I've got a Walker still in Penn home, actually. I'm having been towed by Walker.
We are back live.
Well, welcome back, everyone. It's 11:19, and the State Board of Elections has concluded its executive session. Can I get a motion to go back?
I'll make a motion to come back into open session.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, very good. We are back on the record. So first, because I skipped over item number 2, I discussed earlier why I did that. I'm going to ask the board if there's a motion to table discussion and approval of revised county plans until our next special meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Okay, so this next one is the biggest reason we're here today, and there's a lot of detail, and so I'm going to defer to staff to kind of walk us through this. But we, as I said earlier, are under a deadline to approve a new administrative regulation with respect to a process for certifying our electronic poll books that we use to check voters in. So today we need to approve a new regulation. It's already been drafted and circulated. It's already been shared with the governor's office because the governor has to approve any emergency regulation. We understand that we can expect the governor to sign that when he gets it from us. And so do you want to start with this, Karen, or should I call on someone else?
I think I would defer to Taylor
Okay,
with the Taylor Brown, our general counsel, if you don't mind.
by all means.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. So this is a new emergency regulation for e-poll book certification standards based off the General Assembly's actions in the last session. We have a new statute that is KRS 117.379(2)C, and it requires that any e-poll book product used in the state be approved and certified through an examination and approval process belonging to the State Board of Elections beginning September 1st. So this admin reg lays that out, and it's quite simple. It just says that beginning September 1st, 2022, all e-poll book products as defined by KRS 117.001(8) sought to be used in the Commonwealth shall be approved and certified if the examiner's report outlined in KRS 117.379(2)C and the State Board of Elections find that the e-poll book product meets the certification requirements outlined in Form SBE 2030 Certification Procedures for e-poll book products 0922. So that SBE 2030 is the actual SBE form. It's actually more of a booklet, approximately 12 pages, I believe, and it's going to lay out the process by which a vendor would get their product certified in the state. It kind of mirrors the process that the election equipment vendors would use, and part of that will include a RFP for the vendors to have that as part of the process as well, and that's been drafted. So that just needs to be collaborated on with, I guess, COT at this point, and we'll move that along. So yeah, if I could, I would ask the board for a motion to approve what is now docketed for LRC as 31 KAR 2030E, the emergency admin regulation regarding the e-poll book certification standards.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? The ayes have it.
And then secondly, I guess pursuant to that admin reg, I would ask for a vote or a motion for a vote to proceed with that RFP collaboration that we need to do.
And just for clarity for anyone watching and for the members, we are not approving an RFP at this time. However, we are approving a process which is consistent with the regulation that we just passed.
Correct.
So moved.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Sorry, everybody was on mute.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Taylor, back to you.
All right, so I will get that. So we'll have Executive Director Sellers sign it, get it over to the governor's office, sign it, and that'll be filed with LRC. Be ready to go on September 1st.
Thanks for your quick work on that, not just Taylor, but everybody who's been involved in the work group. I know Taylor especially is real busy right now litigating a little bit of the state on our behalf. Taylor, thanks for taking the lead on this very much. Am I through to go on to the next step? What we said. I had asked Jason Denny, president of the County Clerks Association, if he'd be able to stay on for the entirety of the meeting. I'm sorry we run so long today. I promised it would be a short meeting. I didn't keep that promise, but thank you, Jason, for sticking around. The reason I for sure wanted Jason to give us a report is I spent a couple hours with county clerks yesterday at CAECO discussing some of the challenges they're facing, and I wanted to give Jason an opportunity to talk about that to us.
Well, as most of you all know, we have been inundated with open records requests, and even this morning, threats of lawsuits over mostly information regarding the 2020 general election. They are asking, in general, there are some of the requests are not so cumbersome, but there are others that it is just information we either don't have in Kentucky. The open records request look to be, in general, copy and paste open records request. The constituents that are bringing these in, for the most part, cannot explain these open record requests or tell you what they're looking for. So we met in general yesterday at CAECO to try to decipher through these requests. While we want to comply with all, and we will if we have this information, there are things that these requests look to be a lot of federal terminology that we just don't have in Kentucky. One request per se I had in Anderson County, I emailed the lady back and forth, and she is now telling me that she's needing something totally different than what her request said. Forget her request, just give me the tally report. Well, that's pretty simple. I can give her that within really easy. But they weren't specific in that. They didn't even ask for that. They asked for things that, like I say, terminology that Kentucky is not understanding. And then there are some requests that are fairly simple. There are some things that, of course, with open records, we don't have, and we don't have to create or modify and comply to the format in which they're asking for them in. My main thing is we're preparing for a 2022 general election. And in less than 2.5 weeks, we will be sending ballots out in the mail and preparing early voting centers for this election. And if these requests continue to come in on a daily basis like they are, we're going to be so strapped that we either don't comply with the open records request and have a successful 2022 election, or we continue to comply with all the requests and the 2022 election fails. We don't have staffing to keep up these numerous requests. And they're so repetitive, they seemingly are asking for the same thing. And it seems like to me that they're sending these requests to our local constituents to bring into us. And they don't know how many of these requests they have out there. They're just hoping to gather what information they can. And they are really inundating our offices. You know, part of 61872 on open records basically allows us, if we think they're trying to disrupt our office, there's no proof they're trying. I don't think they're trying to, but they are disrupting the function of a county clerk's office and the function and integrity of the 2022 election. So we're at a crossroads. We're trying, that's what I've been doing. So Secretary Adams, don't apologize. I have been working on 2 screens here, working on open records requests the entire time you all were off screen with me. Trying to answer these back and forth and work with other clerks. And Taylor has been so helpful with some memos and some guidance on terminologies and what records we do or don't have. You know, we know what we have to produce to the grand juries. We know what we have to give out on election night and have to report. But some of the things, most of the things they're asking for, we don't have. So we're trying to be sure we don't have it, because they ask it in a way that we're not lawyers. So hope you all understand that. It is really, I know there are clerks right now that are retiring at the end of the year, said they wish they had went on and left August 1. But I mean, it is.
Jason, how
Scenario.
widespread is this?
Statewide, nationwide. We're heading yeah. It's
Do you think all
nationwide.
120 county clerks are getting open records requests?
Yes, sir, I do.
So is this just an effort by election deniers to gum up the process?
I can't speak to that. If it was, then if we knew that for a fact, we can use section 6 of 61872. It says if we know the intent to disrupt other essential functions of a public agency, then we can refuse it. But we have no proof of that. If
No,
they're
you're not ever going to get proof of that.
Right.
You're not going to get a smoking gun, but I think you can imply proof of that. Personally, I would look at that legally, and Taylor, you may want to look at that because you know there are implications, there are options in the law that allow you to imply from a set of circumstances a certain intent. And this is obviously an organized effort, in my opinion, to gum up the process. They don't even know what they're asking for, as you said. This is not a serious attempt to actually find information from you. It can only, and if it's not that, it's only an attempt to gum up the process, to burden you.
I just received an email from a source saying that Nevada is receiving 50 requests per day in most offices. So we're not, you know, I have seen as many as 10. In general, if they would just call us and say, hey, this is what I want, what's the terminology I need to use, I'd be glad to help them in my office. Say you want the tally printout, and I will give you that. But that's not what they're asking for in general. It's stuff that I don't know what they're wanting.
I don't think they, as you said earlier, they don't know what they're wanting. So how they can't call you because they don't know what they're asking
Well,
for.
our local constituents definitely don't know. They're just being used, in my opinion. I think some of my local constituents are being used as pawns.
Well, I think that's enough reason to look into the option of simply denying these on the grounds that it is a widespread attempt to gum up the process and to overburden county clerks. We cannot let our elections in 2022 be compromised by this kind. It's not acceptable.
Right. And then we received an email this morning, notice of prospective litigation, demand for records retention. Well, we have records retention policies and we're all following those, but we're seeing that, hey, we're going to probably sue you if, so we're getting threatened now to a point. It just, I don't know.
I'd like to make a couple of quick points. This is not happening organically to the point that you both just made. This is being driven. Specifically, we believe it's been driven by Mike Lindell conference about a week ago, where a couple of Kentuckians who have been behind this misinformation effort participated. They said a number of false things about our process here in Kentucky. They specifically, one of them specifically accused our county clerks in Northern Kentucky who just did a recount of stuffing the ballot boxes so the numbers would match. And then suddenly after this conference, we get all of these requests. They are kind of cookie cutter. They are similarly worded. That suggests to me that there's some chat room out there or listserv, or there are people nationally who've been manipulated by a pillow salesman or putting together these long laundry lists of demands, and then they find someone in Kentucky and then that person submits it. This is out of control. We've got an election about to happen. We're trying to get ready for it. Our clerks, our process is under great strain. Pretty much all my staff do all day, every day is just deal with this nonsense. That's true of our clerks as well. They've got other stuff to do besides elections, by the way, and so does my team. First, it was these pointless recounts in districts whose elections were 30, 40, 50-point blowouts. You can't just walk up to a vending machine and put in an order and buy a recount. Even if you raise the money to pay the literal cost of the recount, there is great strain in our system. There's strain on our clerks. There's strain on us, this board, our staff, my office. Our system is not designed for every election to be recounted. It's totally
It's a tremendous burden on the taxpayers too.
That's exactly right. So we've had 5 county clerks not quit last month. I'm concerned that we're going to have clerks that are experienced and capable. Our clerks do a great job, but imagine just coming into office in August of a major election year. I mean, as good as you are, this is going to be a tough experience. So we're losing experienced people. I'm worried about being able to recruit enough poll workers. They don't want to be part of this process. They don't want false accusations either. It's a real problem. So I do want to encourage anyone who's watching, if you're concerned, call your state senator and let your state senator know that there's another state senator that's driving this train. And it's having a real impact on us, all of us.
You know, this group is worried about the integrity of the elections, and they're causing, right now with us trying to prepare for elections, it's detrimental to the election process, what they're doing right now.
Jason, that's James. Do you have any type of correlation between population and the number of requests? Because as you said, it's been fed to local citizens to make these requests. You said you had how many? 10?
I personally have 4. We have seen as many as 10 differentiations. None of them are using the OAG form currently, so there's no consistency. Some have been emailed in, which is legal. Some have been handed in. In my county, one was hand delivered by one of my election officers, actually. And she was bet by whoever gave her this that I wouldn't comply. And that's what she told me. And I said, well, I will comply if you tell me what you're looking for. And we went down through her bullet points. I called her and then I emailed her and I said, if you'll go down through the bullet points and put it into an email form of what you're asking for. She couldn't tell me. And she said, well, I can't. And I said, well, if you can't tell me what you're asking, none of this stuff I can comply with. Well, I just want the tally on election night. I said, then state that in an email and I will be glad to print off that tally and give to you. That's no problem. That's easy. But that's
Jason-
not what this request is asking for.
So other
Jason-
counties getting the same type of request that
James,
you're
they're
hearing.
pretty much standard across the state. We talked about yesterday about 4 specific requests that we all have seen. They're coming from an elected official, and then most of them are coming though from constituents. I think most, if not all, 120 counties received one from, okay, so my emails are subject to open record. So Adrian Southworth, Senator Southworth's office, sent one blanket to 120 counties, we believe. All 120 got it.
Okay.
That's the one that's fairly easy to answer, except for one line item or two. That's no problem. We're going to answer. We're going to give every bit of information we can. However, they're not wanting any charges for this, et cetera, which the law allows us to charge. And I'm going to stay consistent. In my office, I charge 50 cents a page for open records requests because KRS 64019 says we can. And so I'm going to be consistent with that with anybody that requests information. But James, yes, they're consistent across the state. It's copy and paste open records requests is what these are.
Jason, how hard would it be for you to gather together some comprehensive data on these requests across the state?
So explain that a little bit more.
Well, I'd like to know if I'm trying to determine what this is, I'd like to know with some certainty how many counties have received a request and how many requests those counties received.
Okay.
You know, if you've some
Do
data
you want
that
to know how many has received specific requests? Like,
well,
from
all
certain-
of it. I mean, if you can get data on requests generally, you know, if you, for instance, we had an election 2 years ago or 4 years ago, and you could take some of those past elections and say, well, we received almost no requests at all. And suddenly we're getting thousands of requests across the state when you add them all up. I mean, a blanket request to 120 counties is 120 requests. And I would add those up and I would put together some data to show that we've got a significant problem here. I wouldn't leave it to be anecdotal. You know, I would add it up and say, this is what's happening. It differs from things that have happened in the past. We've got a clear pattern here that's driven by a handful of people. And I think we then need to take that and make a decision, and this should happen very quickly, make a decision that this is essentially an effort to gum up the process. And, you know, it's going to make it a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you let them gum up the process, then we are going to have election problems. We are going to have an election that will be questioned if they burden the taxpayers enough and they burden the system enough. So the thing needs to be nipped in the bud, and it needs to be nipped in the bud now.
I will try to do a survey to get some of that information. I would just venture to say that it's tenfold from 2 years ago. At least tenfold.
That is not an accident. As the secretary said, this is a intentional effort to try to gum up I don't know if he said it this way, but it's obviously intentional. And it's driven by a handful of people. It's probably connected to that Pilla fella. And it needs to be stopped. You simply, in an organized society, you cannot let a handful of people destroy the democratic process. And I'm sorry, but it's got to be stopped. This is unacceptable on every level if we want to continue with the democracy that works.
You're here.
I would agree. Secretary, that's about all I've got. I can't even begin. I'm trying to order ballots, proof ballots, things that I do behind the scenes that the staff doesn't do. And I'm inundated with open records requests. And I've got to get to my vendor and get supplies ordered and start working with election officers. And we haven't even begun that process yet. So it's,
Jason, if you can get some data fairly quickly, a quick turnaround, we can get this. I mean, people, the citizens of this Commonwealth need to know what these people are doing. They just do. They need to know that. And we need to get this data out to them to let the citizens know that there is essentially an effort to undermine the 2022 election.
Okay, I will work on that data and try to have it in my goal would be within 2 days. If we can get surveys. I don't know how many will answer, but we'll try to do maybe a survey monkey.
I think that would be very helpful.
Can you and I talk after the meeting? We'll call each other.
Sure.
Might have a little more input from you on what you want, and that way I can be specific on the questions. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Hey, Jason, not to make your job even harder, but if you're going to survey anyway, could you also ask how many additional poll workers are needed county by county?
Okay. What I'll do is okay. I think we can. Yeah.
Our next item is that we have our next scheduled meeting on September 20th, as I said, and I think we all agreed we'll come back next week sometime. We'll find out what time that is to be able to include as many of our members as possible and take up the county plans that have been submitted. And then with that, all that remains is awaiting a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, thank you all. I'm sorry this took so long, but it was certainly time well spent. We accomplished quite a bit, and I'll see you all hopefully in about a week.